I'm Cathrine Cormin. I'm so excited to be here, kicking off this amazing event with all these people. Thank you all for being here. I am an intuitive channel and guide for ascension. I channel various higher collectives, ascended masters, guides, and the higher selves of those that I work with. I'm also an activator for awakening and ascension in those around me. I do this unconsciously every day, but also I do this in a more deliberate process when I work one-on-one with people. I have help with this from all the guides and ascended masters that I work with, but also in particular, I have help from Ascended Master Yeshua, or Jesus. Yeshua works directly through me as a conduit to activate and transmit light codes to those who I'm working with or just those around me. And these light codes and activations help us to remember and realign with who we truly are as a divine being of light, and also what we came here to do, our soul purpose. So, it's a pretty big statement, and I'm just going to take a breath on that. This is a big moment for me to be here now saying this out loud. That this is what I do. This is me standing in my divine truth, stepping further into my divine truth and into my divine purpose, and allowing myself to be seen here by all of you. So, how did I get here? Well, it's been a long process, and I believe, as I am sure many of you do, that we come into this incarnation with a divine plan and a divine purpose for what we want to accomplish. And although we forget when we come in, or at least I certainly did, most of us do, our higher selves, our guides, and our team of angels and ascended masters are there to help us along the way. I believe also that we put into place certain trigger points or activations at crucial moments in our lives that help us to remember and awaken and raise our vibration as well as our awareness to a higher level so that we can further ascend and move forward in fulfilling our divine purpose. So, as I said, I came in with very little, no knowledge of who I was before. You hear stories about little kids, 4-year-olds who can remember past lives, who are already channeling and talking to dead people, or seeing angels in their bedrooms. I did not have that connection, or did not remember that connection. It wasn't until much later, not until my senior year in high school, that I actually had an experience, a divine experience that opened me up to that. So it took me a while to get there. And for me, I had to go through a couple of times in my life where I actually spiraled down into darkness and lost myself and had to find my way back out in order to remember, in order to be able to raise my vibration and recognize and bring back the pieces of myself that had been missing or lying dormant for a while. And so the first time this happened to me was in 5th grade. Up until that point, I had lived a pretty good childhood. I was very shy and very introverted. I didn't really like communicating with adults. I didn't feel comfortable around adults at all. But I had a few neighborhood friends and cousins that I could communicate with easily. But in particular, I had one amazing best friend that I met in kindergarten. And so she was in my grade, in my school, and also she was my neighbor. And we did everything together. And it was just this beautiful relationship. And looking back, I see what an amazing little bubble of safety that I was in with her, where I felt completely accepted. I felt no need to be anything other than who I was, and basically unconditional love. And that was fantastic, and that lasted up until 5th grade. And then in 5th grade, things changed. My friend and her family decided to move away. And so I was left with feeling a little bit of grief. I went through a grieving process. Okay, I no longer have this person to be my little safety net, so who am I going to be without her? And it took me a little while to kind of work through that, and who am I going to be my friends at school now? Who am I going to hang out with? So I decided that I was going to these 3 girls in my class were going to be my friends. I didn't really consult them on this. I just latched on. So I just started hanging out with them every day, and I was like, okay, this is cool, everything's fine. This is working out, or so I thought. And then one day on the playground, I went out to the playground after lunch, which is what we did, and I couldn't find them anywhere. I was really, really odd, like where could they be? And they're not inside, they're not out on the playground. This is kind of weird. And I didn't know what to do, so I just went and sat on some steps by myself, and sitting there feeling a little awkward and whatever. And another girl in my class came over to talk to me, and she said, "Are you looking for these 3 girls?" And I said, "Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know where they could be. I don't see them anywhere." So she said, "Well, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but they're hiding from you. They're around the building over there because they didn't want to hang out with you." And looking back, I know that this kind of thing happens all the time. This is such a kid thing to do, and much worse happens to people. But for me, in that moment, it was a punch in the gut, and I was devastated. Because for the first time, I had never experienced full-on rejection like that. And and the rejection was in a way for me that I immediately took it as, there is something wrong with me. I am not good enough. And there's something so wrong with me that people I thought were my friends have to hide from me to get away from me. And so it was very difficult. From that moment forward, I had an imprint now of, I'm not worthy, I'm not okay as I am, and that if I want to be accepted, I have to figure out whatever it is that I need to be or do or say or look like, what I need to like or dislike, so that I fit in. And I shrank back. I just pulled back, and I couldn't, from that point on, everything that I said, and I didn't interact with people very much. I was very, very quiet. I just sat back and observed and just kind of nodded my head and agreed with whatever was being said or talked about. I was very cautious about not saying anything that might offend or be seen as weird. And before this happened, I was the kid in school where the teacher asked someone to read aloud from a book, and I was, me, I'll do it, and was fine getting up in front of people and talking. And after that, I was horrified by it. I would go into panic mode. I was in severe social anxiety, and I didn't want to be the center of attention. I didn't want to risk the chance of being made fun of or looked at in a poor light. So anytime I had to do that, it was a horrible experience. So throughout this time, I had been raised in a Catholic family. I went to a Catholic school, and I went to school with the same people from kindergarten all the way through high school. And so I didn't yet have that connection, though, to know that there was really and truly something bigger than me, taking care of me, and I felt very alone. I did have prayer. I had my Our Fathers and my Hail Marys. I had that connection to Mary and to God in that way, and that did help. But I still felt very alone and isolated and very insecure, very unsure of myself, and that lasted for years. I lost myself. I had no idea who I was. All I was doing was trying to be what I thought everyone wanted me to be. So, fast forward a little bit here, and mid-high school, around junior year, I finally did kind of find a little group of friends that I felt okay with, that I felt accepted by. And that really did help improve my self-esteem. And this was the point where I finally started to come back to myself a little bit. And what my guides tell me this process is, and it'll be clearer as I go through a little bit more of my experiences, is soul alchemy. So we come in, we have these experiences, we lose pieces of ourselves, not only in this incarnation, but also in other incarnations. We lose pieces of ourselves and we forget about our gifts, our abilities, who we are. And what we do is eventually we have something that occurs that helps us start to remember and bring some of those pieces back in. And as we do that, we reconfigure, we realign, we come into a higher awareness, we raise our vibration, and we have a different perspective, a different perception. And so in high school, I had my group of friends now, and then my senior year, I made it my mission I wanted to figure out what I was gonna do with my life, what career path I was gonna have, because I didn't like school because of the social anxiety and presentations and all of that stuff. I didn't like school, but I knew I had to go to college because I needed to get a decent job that paid a decent amount of money so I could support myself and not have to rely on anyone. So I just wanted to get in and get out as fast as I can. And I wanted to know what I was doing when I started so that I didn't waste any time on classes that I didn't need. So the thing that kept coming up for me that year was occupational therapy. And I didn't even know what it was. It came up on my aptitude tests, and I had to look it up, had to research it. I also, as I started to learn more about it and how you help people improve their function in their daily lives after disease or injury through various means, I thought, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. I think I would like to do that. And I also found out that I had a cousin that also was an occupational therapist and had been out for a couple of years. So I went and spent some time with her. I shadowed with her. She was a pediatric therapist. She also set me up with another therapist who was a hand and upper extremity therapist, and I got to see that, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of cool. I think I would like to do this. But it would mean that I would have to go away to school, to a big university with huge classes, big campus. I'd have to live on campus, live in the dorms, so that would all be more expensive. And I would have to get into the actual program. And you have to, it's competitive. So you have to have like a 4.0 grade point average, and you have to go through an interview process and all of this, and you have to actually get in. And I was not like an A+ student. I was like a B average, which isn't bad, but not enough to do that. So I had all these doubts about, oh, can I do that? Can I do this? And then I would have to leave my friends that I had finally made. So ultimately, I chose the safe option, which was to go to the local university, stay in my parents' house. I'd still have my friends around me. I could still work in my parents' store and go to school, and I just would be a psychologist or a social worker or something like that. So that's what I decided. And then 3 weeks before graduation, I was sitting in my room thinking about all of this. And all of a sudden, the air in the room changed. It was a palpable difference. And I had this sensation come over me that I can't really, it's hard to describe, but it was a presence. I had never experienced anything like this before. It was a presence that was very real and very peaceful, and just, I could do nothing but lean into it. And I heard a voice. And at the same time I heard a voice, I had this deep, visceral inner knowing. You're making a mistake. You need to go be an occupational therapist. You need to go to this school and become an occupational therapist. That's your path. Oh, okay. And I kind of questioned it a little bit, and also at the same time I was thinking, what is this? You know, what is this? Who is this? And I was like, well, is this God? Is this my guardian angel? And then it occurred to me, oh, is this what people mean when they say God talks to them? Is this how God talks to you? And I finally clicked with me, oh, this is God telling me I need to go this way instead of this way. Who am I to argue with God? I guess I need to go do this. And, you know, and it was such an epiphany, a realization, because even though I had grown up Catholic and I had understood that back in Jesus's time, people had apparitions, they had angels appear to them, telling them things, and I knew that that happened, but in my mind, it was that happened back then in Jesus's time, and only to special people. Nobody I know has had that kind of experience, but I've heard people talk about God telling them things. So this was the first time that I realized, oh, there's someone looking out for me. I'm not alone. And I began to crack open a little bit. So I kind of argue with myself a little bit, oh, I can't do this, you know, there's no way I can, this isn't gonna work. But that feeling never went away, and it was so real and so palpable that I knew, okay, I have to do this. I have to at least try. And so I surrendered, and I just trusted that something would work out. So I went and talked to my mom about it right after that, and remember, this is 3 weeks before graduation. We'd already made other plans, and my sister was getting married in 3 weeks as well. So we had a lot going on. But my mother, luckily, you know, obviously there's a divine orchestration in place, but luckily my mother was someone who wanted us to have every possibility, every chance, every opportunity she possibly could to do whatever we wanted to be successful in life. And so I explained it to her, and she said, okay, we'll figure it out. Let's do it. And we immediately started making plans. So off I went to school, to this big university on my own, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I was so scared. I was so nervous. I was all on my own for the first time and having to navigate and negotiate all of this. And I was just miserable that whole first semester. I cried a lot. I was scared. I went home every weekend so that I could be around my friends and my mother and father and feel a little better. But you know what? Every time that I felt like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? This doesn't make any sense. I can't do this. That feeling would come back, and I would know, okay, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. I have to keep trying. And if it doesn't work out, I'll quit after a year or whatever. I'll go home, but I have to at least try. And funny thing, my mother told me later that she didn't think I would be able to do it. She said, I wanted to give you the chance, but I figured you'd be back after a semester or two. But I didn't. I stuck it out every day. I went to class, came home, studied, repeat. And it got easier. It got easier. And each week, each month, the next semester, I had less, I didn't cry anymore. I was okay. I was actually starting to kind of like it. I was getting good grades. I was able to move forward, and I got into that program. And I made friends, and I actually liked what I was doing. And a whole new world opened up to me. I graduated. I got a job. I met the man I was going to marry. And now I had this whole huge life that was more than I could have ever imagined for myself. And all because I had that experience, and I listened, and I didn't give up. I took one step, put one step in front of the other, and I surrendered, and I said, okay. So pretty profound, and that is what I was talking about before with soul alchemy. I brought back in pieces of myself to recognize myself as being someone who is worthy and capable, and that I could do so much more than I ever realized. And I had a whole different perspective on life at that point, and I had a fantastic life now. And I was okay. I am worthwhile. So there's a process, I think, after you come back in and bring a lot of pieces back into yourself, where you just sort of integrate and it flows. And for several years, I was just totally happy just doing that. Everything was great. Life is good. But we can't remain stagnant. And I still had not really awakened. I still had that experience. I'd had occasional experiences with receiving messages or knowings, and that was all great. And I knew that if I just trusted whatever it was, that great things would open up for me. It would not lead me astray. But I didn't have that connection on a daily basis. I wasn't receiving downloads every day. I wasn't talking to beings. I didn't even really have an awareness of much beyond that. So in order for me to be able to really fully awaken and begin to step into my gifts, I needed another trigger or activation. So a few years later, my husband and I were ready to build our dream home, or at least as much of a dream home as we could afford. So we bought a beautiful piece of property, an amazing wooded, 7 acres of woods, a creek down on one side of it, a perfect home site. We were so excited and so in love with this, and we decided to build a custom home. And I don't know if any of you have ever done anything like this, but it's a little bit of a stressful process. You come up with a plan, you talk to your builder, and they give you an estimate for what they think it's going to cost to build this. And so you're like, okay, all right, it's going to cost this much, it's going to be fine. All right, cool, we can do this. And then, things change. Lumber prices go up, and now your framing's $7,000 more, or your plumbing is going to cost more, or you start to go pick out the fun stuff, like tile and carpet and cabinets, and the builder has given you a price range for each of those things. So you go and you look and you see what's in your price range, and you're like, oh, I don't like that. I want this over here that's in this price range. That would look so much better. And you kind of go through this whole process of negotiating and trying to figure out, okay, if we go up on this, maybe we could cut somewhere else, or maybe we could handle a few more $1,000s on our mortgage. It'll be okay, blah, blah, blah. And you go through this and you start to kind of wonder, what is this house going to end up costing? But we were okay. However, this whole process triggered in me severe anxiety. I went down into a horrible spiral of anxiety and panic attacks. So on one hand, I had this amazing, beautiful life that was perfect looking from the outside in, and I was so excited, and I wanted all of this. And then on the other side, this intense and massive fear. So kind of a dichotomy there, or a polarity. So I started having panic attacks at night. And I would wake up and I would be just my skin crawling, just so uncomfortable and so much fear that it's like I just wanted to get out of my body, and I can't get out of my body. I wanted out of my body, I couldn't breathe. It was, I think, one of the worst feelings I've ever felt. And I was starting to have these a little more often. And I started letting my thoughts spiral out of control with that. So instead of, intellectually I knew that there was no reason for it. Everything was going to be fine. Intellectually I could see that, but I still had the thoughts, and I kept thinking, what if this happens during the day? What if this happens when I'm working with a patient, or my coworkers see this? They're going to think I'm nuts. This is going to be horrible. What if it starts to happen on a regular basis? I'm not going to be able to work. If I can't work, I can't pay my mortgage. If I can't work and pay my mortgage, my husband's not going to want me, blah, 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 and you go on, and you go into this crazy spiral of thoughts that make no sense. It's not likely to happen, but there it was. That's what I was feeling, and that's what I was dealing with every single day and every night. And it got to a point where, man, it was so hard. I just got to a point where I was like, if I'm going to have this much struggle every day for the rest of my life, I don't want to be here. I don't want to keep doing this. For the first time, I understood how someone could get to the point that they want to commit suicide. But I didn't really want to. I didn't want to, and I didn't think I could anyway. I didn't think I could actually do it. So what now? And I got mad. I got really mad and like, this is stupid. I don't like this. I don't like this anxiety. This is not me. This is not who I want to be. I don't want to do this anymore. There has to be a way out of this. There has to. There has to be other people that have gone through this too. And so I said, okay, I got to figure it out. And I did. I started reading more and more about that. I went to a psychologist who recommended relaxation techniques and progressive relaxation with meditation. And I started doing that 20 minutes every day, and I started creating space where I could just be. And in that space, I was okay. Okay. And then I also started to recognize with reading things that I learned, this is a tip, it's physiologically impossible to go into a full-blown panic attack if you're breathing deeply and you're just focused on the present moment. So I started incorporating that into my everyday. And I was just, okay, I'm just breathing, getting ready for work, doing my hair, everything's fine. I'm just breathing, everything's fine. I'm in my car, driving to work. Okay, now I'm just walking into the building, just breathing, everything's fine. And I found that if I could do that and practice that every day, I didn't go toward thinking about all the things that I had to do. I didn't start spiraling into those thoughts. And was creating space for myself. And I started to realize, okay, this is me. This is me. Not all this out here, not the anxiety, not all of that. This is me. And this is the person I wanted to bring back out every day. And it got easier. And every day I practiced this. And I could get through more and more of the day with less intensity of fear, or sometimes even not thinking about it at all. And eventually I could go days, and eventually I could go weeks, and the panic attacks subsided, and it eventually went away. But also through that process, I went inward, and I began to find myself, and I began to receive downloads and connections with other beings. And I began to recognize, oh, there's a whole lot more going on. And I started having all these amazing synchronicities start to happen. Books and teachers and people came into my life that taught me about things that helped me to, blow wide open. I read the Conversations with God series from Neil Donald Walsh. Totally broke me open from there. I started reading about psychics and mediums and channelers, and I thought, that is amazing. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do that. And I found out you don't have to be born with that. You can actually learn it. You can develop it. It's like a skill, like anything else. So I found a teacher that happened in a whole amazing synchronous way, but I don't have time to go into all of that. But I found a teacher and I started taking workshops, and I learned to channel, and I started channeling and connecting and continued reading books, and it was an insatiable desire. I just wanted more. I wanted to learn everything I could about it and about how the universe works. And I started to recognize myself more. And my life changed. I started to open up, and I had some friends, thankfully, during that time that were as excited about it as I was. And I could talk to them about all of it, and they would let me practice on them. So I had my tribe there to support me, and I could be myself with them. I wasn't still quite able to do that with my husband. He was happy that I was meditating and doing what I needed to do to relieve the anxiety, but if I started talking too much about the channeling and all of that, he would be like, whoa, okay, that's weird. I don't know what you're, so I learned to kind of, okay, I can't talk to him about all that, or I have to choose my words a little bit, but I had these other people over here that I could tell them everything, and it was great. So it's an evolution, right? It's a process, coming back into yourself, and people have to be ready for it as well. So I have been evolving and progressing ever since then, opening up to my gifts and abilities. I still work as I am an occupational therapist, but I also still, I work as a manager of a physical therapy company right now, full-time. But Spirit, I'm in another transition point right now, where another moment of soul alchemy where I'm bringing back more. I've been bringing back in more and more of myself back into my wholeness, and remembering and realigning with my higher purpose, my soul purpose. And I am recently, in the last 6 months or so, recognizing, okay, I'm hearing the guidance that, okay, Cathrine, it's time. You've been working on these gifts, you've been developing this, and it's time for you to move into your next highest level of service. It's time to share your gifts. And so here I am with all of you. So what I'd like to do now is go into a channeled activation and meditation with the intention that it will help all of us to step further onto our path and have the courage and the triggers or activations that are needed to recognize and become more aware of ourselves, increase our perception, increase our awareness, and then begin to create from that new higher level and fulfillment of our divine purpose. So what we'll do is I'll just have you all kind of go ahead and get comfortable. And just to let you know, I do, when I channel, it comes through in different ways. So sometimes I get actual messages coming through, and sometimes it is just the energy is flowing through. You'll see, if you happen to open your eyes, you'll see me moving my arms, because that's how I move energy. Sometimes it comes through also as tones. I'll be toning or light language. And then sometimes it's just silence, and it's just letting the energy flow, but you will feel it coming through, and it is all perfect. And during that time is when you may receive your own information and guidance. So we'll go ahead and start. I am going to also recommend a particular breathing pattern. However, any pattern that you feel comfortable is just perfect. So whatever works for you, whatever you feel like is right. The breathing pattern that I'm going to recommend is a full but gentle inhale through the nose, a brief pause, and then a full exhale through the mouth. Okay? It shouldn't be forced. It should be just a gentle process. Again, a full breath in through the nose, a pause, and a complete exhale. Okay. So let's go ahead and get comfortable and close your eyes. And I'm calling in all of our guides, all of us, all of our higher selves, the Ascended Masters. Yeshua is here, Mother Mary, the Magdalena Collective. And as I'm calling them in, they're very blessed and very happy to be here and to assist us in this process. Let's go ahead and just take a few breaths. And as you're breathing, I'm going to ask you to drop into your heart. And as you drop in, there is a beautiful diamond crystalline white light, a diamond shape that expands outward from your heart. This beautiful white crystalline light fills you up and expands out and out and out, as far out as it can go to the edges of your energetic field. But we're just going to bathe in that beautiful crystalline light for a moment as we receive whatever messages need to come in. Crystalline Collective is here, opening up the gates within us, within our heart, and in between all of our chakras, opening and aligning in this now moment. Recognizing our divinity and the truth of who we are as we integrate and communicate with these divine beings of light, as they are here to support us and guide us along the way. Mother Mary and Mary Magdalena are voicing themselves now, entering into our field of vibration to assemble and reclaim pieces of us that have been lying dormant or have been missing for some time. And as we sit in the energy, we recognize our beauty, our oneness, our wholeness, and we begin to reintegrate soul fragments and pieces that have been gone for some time, coming back in now and clicking into place. And as these soul fragments come back in, there's a repatterning taking place and a realigning with the truth of who we are and what we came here to do and who we came here to be. And as this realignment takes place, we are entering into a crystalline vortex of energy that is circling all around us, opening up the channels, opening up the gates and connections to our higher calling, our higher purpose, and our connection with the highest level beings of light, anchoring in to our divinity above and anchoring into the crystalline vortex of Gaia below. We are reassembling pieces into the root chakra, reconnecting with our vibrancy and our joy and will for life, our connections to the earth plane, are assimilating here now. Activating our timelines, our ascension processes, our awakening, and opening our awareness to these new pathways that are available to us now. Recognizing ourselves in our divinity here as human beings on the earth plane. We step more and more into the embodiment of that divinity in human form. Opening and realigning at the heart, expanding and open, recognizing our oneness here, our wholeness and our divine selves, and activating that in the heart, from which we birth a new beginning, a new step in our evolution. A new timeline. And as we enter into this new field of vibration and alignment and realignment with our divine selves, we activate through the crystalline core of Gaia and descend back down into our heart and come back into the awareness of here and now, present moment. And just slowly come back in, feeling your body. Knowing that all is well. And all that was learned here will remain in your conscious awareness as you step forth on your divine path. And you can slowly bring back your eyes open. believe we have a few minutes left, so if there's any questions, I'm open to answering those.
Cathrine, that was a beautiful, that was really beautiful transmission, so thank you. And what can you expect if you have a private session with you?
Good question. Yeah. So typically, when I have a private session, I download quite a bit of information ahead of time. So I tune in beforehand, and I usually get quite a bit of information from your higher self, your guides, and about you and your incarnation and other incarnations you may have had, other connections you have to various beings and collectives and galactic families. And I share that with you. And then we also have opportunities for questions if there's something in particular that you would like to know or gain insight into. I can channel on those questions. And then also, typically we go through a similar type of transmission designed specifically for you. So there's usually a meditative process and activation and a transmission of light codes that is coming through the entire time as well. Yes?
I love that transmission, and I would like to ask what kind of results you've been finding from people that have had sessions with you.
Good question. Yes, what typically happens, or what I've been given feedback on afterwards, is that they have an increased clarity in what their gifts are if they're not exactly sure, or if they are aware of their gifts, the understanding and the release of fears around stepping into those gifts. So they may find that they're willing and able now to see the next step on the path to stepping further into their fulfillment of their divine purpose and into their divine gifts. So I've also been told it's a level of peace that they feel afterwards. And oftentimes, sometimes a physical change. If they've had something that's been bothering them, there may be a physical change as well, an improvement in that. So I believe that's the best answer I can give right now.
Do you have particular collectives that you work with? You mentioned Jesus earlier.
Yeah, primarily, well, a lot of different ones. I do have a strong connection with the Magdalena, and definitely Yeshua works through me specifically. I've only realized that in the last couple of years. But yeah, I've had the Magdalenas, I've had Saint Germain, Pleiadians, Arcturians, the Council of Light. It's pretty open. It depends on who I'm working with and what the situation is, that anyone can come through, really. Okay.
Anything you'd like to share about the transmission and justice?
I didn't have anything specific that came through other than what I shared with all of you. So it was, it felt very peaceful to me, and I could feel the energy. I can see the diamond white light when I am transmitting, and I could feel the energy of that expanding and moving outward, and see the shape within that. And as that energy flows through, it gets very hot. I'm very absolutely, yeah. This is a technique I learned recently, or in the last couple of years, that was actually brought in, a technique that the Magdalena Collective used to use in the time when they were going through their ascension and their processes. And it's meant to be very gentle and very easy and relaxing. And it's just bringing in a full and complete breath through the nose until there's no more air to take in, and then a brief pause. It doesn't have to be a lengthy pause. It just is a brief pause till you feel like you're ready to exhale. And then a complete exhale through the mouth. And as you do that, you're bringing in the life force. You're bringing in life force energy and filling yourself up and filling not only your physical body up with life force energy, but your entire energetic field. It goes throughout and creates these beautiful arcs of movement and energy that help sustain you and help you to come back into your center and into your awareness of who you are. And as you do this, it relaxes you, and then that complete and full exhale through the mouth, letting go of anything that does not serve. So you're bringing in the life force, filling up your entire being with light, holding it for a brief moment, and then letting go of any and all discordant patterns and energies that no longer serve. And anytime you step into this breath, it's a recentering that takes place, a realignment, a re-acknowledgement of who you are as a divine being. And that this is me, not all this. This is me. And as you do that, you'll be able to move forward with a little bit more grace and ease, hopefully. So, I hope that answers your question. Thank you.